Imagine rebuilding your life after heartbreak, only to have it all threatened by a single piece of paper. Emily Carter thought her divorce was behind her, until a letter arrived, contesting everything she'd fought for. Her home, her kids, her peace, suddenly at risk. What would you do if the past came back to steal your future? Welcome to Whisper's Story, where we uncover the truths that change everything. Stay with us as we unravel my ex-husband's new girlfriend tried to take everything from me. You won't believe how far she went, and how Emily fought back. Emily Carter stood in her foyer, the soft glow of morning light filtering through the curtains of her suburban Virginia home. At 38, she'd carved out a life that wasn't perfect but felt deeply hers. The house smelled of coffee and cinnamon, a comforting ritual she'd perfected over the 2 years since her divorce from Mark. Her kids, Ava and Ben, 10 and 12, were at school, their laughter still lingering in the walls from breakfast. Emily sipped her tea, her fingers brushing the edge of the mug, and let herself breathe. I've earned this peace, she thought, her mind drifting to the rhythm of her days. Her mornings were a sacred routine now, a stark contrast to the chaos of the divorce. She'd wake at 6 a.m., the alarm cutting through the silence of her bedroom, a room she'd repainted sage green to erase the memories of Mark. She'd shuffle to the kitchen in her slippers, the hardwood cool beneath her feet, and start the coffee maker, its gurgle a familiar companion. Then came the kids' breakfast, oatmeal with honey for Ava, scrambled eggs for Ben, both served with a side of chatter about school projects and soccer practice. She'd pack their lunches, peanut butter sandwiches, apple slices, a note tucked in Ava's bag saying, "You've got this, kiddo," and send them off with hugs at the door. After that, she'd settle at her desk in the nook by the window, sketching marketing campaigns for her clients, her pen moving with a quiet confidence she'd rebuilt piece by piece. That November morning, the leaves danced outside, a swirl of red and gold against the gray sky. Emily watched them, her tea steaming in her hands, and felt a rare stillness. She thought back to a summer day years ago, when Ava and Ben were little. Ava barely 5, Ben 7. They'd spent hours in the backyard, chasing each other through the sprinklers, their squeals echoing as water glistened on their skin. Emily had sat on the porch, a glass of lemonade sweating in her hand, Mark beside her flipping burgers on the grill. That was home, she thought now, the memory sharp and bittersweet. The divorce had shattered that picture, but she'd fought to keep the frame, the house, the kids, the life they'd built here. The mail slot clattered, snapping her out of her reverie. A stack of envelopes spilled onto the rug, bills, a flyer for a local craft fair, and then, a thick, official-looking envelope with her name typed in stark black letters. Her stomach twisted, a flicker of unease cutting through her calm. She set her mug down, the ceramic clinking against the table, and tore the envelope open. The words swam at first, legal jargon blurring into nonsense, but one sentence sliced through the haze. "We are contesting the divorce settlement regarding the marital home." Her breath hitched. Mark, her ex-husband, was coming for the house. The house she'd bled for in court, the one where Ava's finger paintings still hung on the fridge, where Ben's soccer trophies lined the mantel. And it wasn't just Mark's name on the letter. It was Jessica's too, his new girlfriend, the woman he'd left her for. Emily's hands trembled as she read on, each word a fresh wound. Jessica claimed the house was essential for their new family, a phrase that made Emily's chest burn. New family? Her mind screamed. What about ours? She sank to the floor, the letter crumpling in her fist, her knees pressing into the rug. The room spun, and she squeezed her eyes shut, trying to anchor herself. How dare they? After everything, 2 years of rebuilding, of scraping by, of making this ours, they want to take it? Her thoughts raced, a torrent of anger and fear. She pictured Ava's easel in the corner of the living room, Ben's muddy cleats by the back door, the garden she tended through every season of her marriage. Roses in summer, mums in fall, even the stubborn weeds she'd cursed in spring. "This is our home," she whispered to the empty foyer, her voice barely audible over the pounding in her ears. She flashed back to the divorce, the courtroom's sterile air, the judge's gavel like a gunshot. Mark had fought dirty then too, claiming she was unfit, dragging out mediation until she'd nearly broken. But she'd won the house, the kids, a fragile victory she'd clung to. Now, this letter felt like a betrayal twice over. Jessica's name glared up at her, a stranger staking a claim on Emily's life. Who does she think she is? Emily's mind snarled. She wasn't here for the late nights, the tears, the repainting of every wall to make this place mine again. That night, Emily lay awake, the house creaking around her like an old friend. She stared at the ceiling, shadows shifting in the dim light, each sound a reminder of what she stood to lose. The radiator hummed in the hall, a sound she'd once complained about but now found comforting. Downstairs, the fridge buzzed faintly, still holding Ava's latest drawing, a lopsided sunflower, taped to the door. This is ours, she thought, her resolve hardening. And I'll fight for it. She rolled onto her side, pulling the quilt tighter, and made a silent vow, they won't take it. Not without a war. Have you ever had to fight for something you thought was already yours? What gave you the strength to stand your ground? Share your thoughts with us at Whisper Story. We'd love to hear your story. The next morning, Emily sat at her kitchen table, the letter spread out before her like a battlefield. The wood grain under her fingers felt rough, grounding her as she traced the edges of the paper. Her best friend, Sarah, sat across from her, cradling a mug of coffee. Sarah was a divorce lawyer, sharp-tongued and fiercely loyal, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. They're playing dirty, she said, tapping the letter with a manicured nail. Jessica's name on this? That's not standard. She's pushing Mark to fight harder, probably smells money or control. Emily's throat tightened, her tea growing cold beside her. Can they do this? After 2 years? She asked, her voice small. Sarah sighed, her hazel eyes softening. They can try. Virginia law allows challenges if there's new evidence or changed circumstances, but it's a stretch. Problem is, it'll cost you time, money, emotional energy. And if they drag it out, the legal fees could drown you. Emily's mind whirled, numbers flashing like warning signs. She'd stretched her finances razor-thin to keep the house after the divorce, dipping into savings, cutting cable, even skipping vacations. Another court fight could ruin her. Her internal monologue was a storm. I can't lose this house. It's all we have left of stability. But how do I fight when I'm already running on fumes? She thought of Ava and Ben, their faces at breakfast that morning. Ava chattering about a science project, Ben plotting a new soccer move. They deserve this home. I have to protect it. She rubbed her temples, the headache brewing behind her eyes a familiar foe. That afternoon, she called the kids into the living room. Sunlight poured through the windows, catching the dust motes in the air. Ava sprawled on the couch, her sketchbook open, her tongue poking out as she drew a dragon. Ben sat cross-legged on the rug, spinning a soccer ball between his hands. Emily knelt beside them, her heart heavy. Hey guys, she said, forcing a smile. I need to talk to you about something serious. They looked up, Ava's pencil pausing, Ben's ball stilling. You know how Dad and I don't live together anymore. But this house, it's our home, right? They nodded, Ava's brow furrowing. Well, sometimes grown-ups disagree, and Dad thinks maybe he should have the house instead. But I want you to know I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we stay here, okay? Ava's eyes widened, her voice trembling. But this is our house, Mom. We live here. Ben nodded, his jaw tight. Yeah, Dad's got his fancy apartment. Why's he need this? Emily's chest ached, but she pulled them into a hug, their warmth steadying her. Exactly, she said, her voice firm. This is ours, and I'm going to fight for it. For us. She held them close, their hair tickling her chin, and felt her resolve solidify. They're my why. I can't give up. Over the next week, Emily's life became a whirlwind of lawyer meetings and sleepless nights. She sat with Sarah in a cramped office, papers piling up like snowdrifts. Her budget stared back at her from a spreadsheet, mortgage, groceries, utilities, all balanced on a knife's edge. She'd sacrificed so much already, no new clothes, no dinners out, just the essentials to keep this life afloat. Now, Mark's move threatened to topple it all. Then came a new blow. A second letter arrived, this one requesting temporary custody changes. Mark claimed the kids needed more time with their father and his stable partner. Emily's hands shook as she read it, her kitchen suddenly too small, too hot. Stable partner? Her mind raged. He cheated with her, left us for her, and now she's stable? She paced the room, her slippers scuffing the floor, her thoughts a tangle of fury and fear. He's not just after the house. He wants Ava and Ben too. Sarah called that night, her voice grim. Fighting both, the house and custody, will be brutal. They're betting you'll cave under the pressure. Emily gripped the phone, her knuckles white. I can't cave, Sarah. This is everything. Sarah paused, then said, there's a chance. I found a clause in the original settlement. If we can prove Mark hid assets during the divorce, the court might throw out his claim. It's a long shot, but it's something. Emily's pulse quickened, a flicker of hope cutting through the dark. She sat at her desk, the kids asleep upstairs, and pulled out old files, bank statements, tax returns, anything that might hold a clue. The clock ticked past midnight, her tea long forgotten, but she kept going. There has to be something, she thought, her eyes scanning numbers until they blurred. I won't let them win. Her fight wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about her family, her future, and the life she'd rebuilt from ashes. And she'd be damned if Jessica tore it down. When life throws multiple challenges your way, how do you prioritize what to fight for? What helps you stay grounded? Drop us a line at Whisper Story. Your insights inspire us all. Emily turned her dining room into a war room, papers scattered across the table like fallen leaves. She became a detective in her own life, fueled by coffee and a burning need for answers. Her internal monologue was relentless. Mark was always cagey about money. There's something here, I know it. She pored over old bank statements, her fingers tracing faded ink, her laptop glowing in the dim light. The kids slept upstairs, their soft snores filtering through the ceiling, and she worked into the night, her exhaustion a distant ache. She found it at 2 a.m., a series of transfers to an account she didn't recognize, dated just before the divorce. Her heart raced as she scribbled the numbers on a notepad, the pen scratching loudly in the silence. This isn't his usual account, she thought, her mind buzzing. She traced it online, her fingers trembling over the keys, and hit gold. The account belonged to a small LLC called Bright Futures. But when she cross-checked the divorce filings, it was nowhere to be found. He hid this, she realized, her breath catching. Then, the real shock, the LLC was registered under Jessica's name. Emily leaned back in her chair, the wood creaking under her weight, her thoughts spinning. Jessica wasn't just the new girlfriend. She was in on it before he left me. The betrayal cut deeper now, a knife twisting in an old wound. She pictured them plotting, Mark in his tailored suits, Jessica with her polished smile, scheming to strip her bare while she was still grieving. They thought I'd never find out, her mind snarled. But I did. She called Sarah at dawn, her voice hoarse but steady. I've got something. An LLC, Jessica's name, hidden transfers. Sarah whistled through the phone. That's fraud, Em. If we can prove it, it's game over. Emily hired a forensic accountant that day, draining her emergency fund, $3,000 she'd saved for a new furnace. Worth it, she thought, handing over the check, her hands steady. The accountant worked fast, unearthing a trail of deception. Mark had siphoned $50,000 into Jessica's LLC, lowering his assets to skew the settlement. Emily's vindication was fierce. They underestimated me. I'm not that broken woman anymore. But there was more to uncover. Late one night, fueled by adrenaline and black tea, Emily dug into Jessica's past. She scrolled through public records, social media, anything she could find. What emerged chilled her. Jessica had a history. 3 other men, all married, all divorced after she entered the picture. One woman lost her home, another, her kids. Emily's blood ran cold as she read a blog post from a stranger in Maryland, She swooped in, played the perfect partner, and left me with nothing. The pattern was clear. She's a predator, Emily thought, her stomach churning. And I'm her latest target. She sat back, the house silent around her, and let the weight settle. Her anger morphed into something sharper, determination. She gathered the evidence, bank records, screenshots, the accountant's report, stacking it neatly on the table. Her internal monologue was a quiet fire. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about stopping her. She met Sarah the next day at a diner, the air thick with grease and coffee. They sat in a vinyl booth, the evidence between them like a loaded weapon. You're not just fighting for yourself, Sarah said, her voice low. You're fighting for every woman she's hurt. Emily nodded, her jaw tight. Then let's take her down. That night, she stood in her kitchen, the kids' drawings glowing under the fridge light. She touched Ava's sunflower, Ben's stick-figure soccer player, and felt a surge of purpose. For them, she thought. For us. She wasn't just surviving now, she was fighting back. Have you ever uncovered a truth that changed everything? How did it shape your next steps? Share your experiences with us at Whisper Story. We're all in this together. Emily couldn't wait for the courtroom. She needed to see Jessica's face, to confront the woman who'd tried to dismantle her life. She texted her, arranging a meeting at a quiet cafe downtown. A neutral ground, she told herself, though her pulse hammered as she drove there. The cafe was small, its walls lined with bookshelves, the air rich with espresso and soft jazz. Jessica sat at a corner table, sleek in a cream sweater, her smile too perfect, too practiced. Emily's internal monologue roared as she approached. Stay calm. You've got the upper hand. She slid into the seat across from Jessica, her coat rustling, her hands clenched in her lap. The table between them held 2 untouched coffees, steam curling into the air. Jessica tilted her head, her voice smooth. I'm glad you wanted to talk, Emily. This doesn't have to be ugly. Emily's mind screamed, ugly? You made it ugly when you signed that letter. She took a breath, steadying herself, and leaned forward. I know about the LLC, she said, her voice low but firm. Bright futures. The transfers Mark made before the divorce. I have the bank records, the dates, everything. Jessica's smile faltered, just for a second, her fingers tightening around her mug. I don't know what you're, Emily cut her off, her words sharp. Don't. I know you helped him hide the money. You were in on it from the start, and now you're after my house. My kid's home. But it's over. I'm taking this to court, and I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done. The cafe seemed to shrink, the jazz fading into a dull hum. Jessica's composure cracked, her eyes narrowed, her lips thinning. You think you can scare me? She said, her tone icy. Mark deserves that house. We deserve it. Emily's anger flared, but she held it in check. No, she said, her voice steady. You don't get to decide that. Not after what you've done. Not just to me but to the others. I know your history, Jessica. The women you've ruined. It stops here. Jessica stood abruptly, her chair scraping the floor, her coffee sloshing over the rim. You'll regret this, she snapped, then stormed out, the bell above the door jangling in her wake. Emily sat frozen, her hands trembling, her coffee untouched. Her internal monologue was a rush. I did it. I faced her. But the victory felt hollow, the real fight still looming. She glanced at her reflection in the cafe window, tired eyes, set jaw, and saw a woman transformed. I'm not afraid anymore, she thought, a quiet strength settling in her bones. Back home, her lawyer called, his voice tense. Court's set for next week. But heads up, Mark's team is pushing for a custody re-evaluation. They're saying you're unstable after the confrontation. Emily's heart sank, her kitchen spinning around her. They're hitting me where it hurts most, she thought, picturing Ava's drawings, Ben's cleats. She sank into a chair, her head in her hands, her thoughts a whirlwind. They want everything. the house, the kids, my peace. But I've come too far to lose now. She straightened, her resolve steeling. For Ava, for Ben, for every woman who's faced this, I'll fight. When faced with someone who wants to tear you down, how do you find the courage to fight back? What's your source of strength? Tell us at Whisper Story, your voice matters. The courtroom was a sterile box, fluorescent lights buzzing, wooden benches creaking under the weight of tension. Emily sat ramrod straight, her hands folded in her lap, her evidence stacked before her like armor. Mark was across the room, his suit crisp, his eyes fixed on the floor. Jessica wasn't there, her absence a silent admission. The judge, a stern woman with gray hair, reviewed the files, her pen tapping the desk. Emily's internal monologue was steady. This is it. For Ava and Ben. For me. She presented her case, her voice clear despite the knot in her chest. The bank records, the LLC papers, the accountant's report. She laid it all out, each piece a brick in her defense. She glanced at the gallery, where Ava and Ben sat with Sarah, their faces pale but trusting. I'm doing this for you, she thought, drawing strength from their presence. The judge's ruling came fast. The house was Emily's, the custody unchanged. Mark had to repay the hidden $50,000, and Jessica's LLC faced investigation. A clean sweep. Emily walked out into the crisp spring air, the weight lifting from her shoulders. Her kids ran to her, their arms wrapping around her waist, and she held them tight, tears pricking her eyes. We're safe, her mind whispered. It's ours. But the victory wasn't just legal, it was a rebirth. Over the next months, Emily transformed her pain into purpose. She started a blog, Rebuilding Home, sharing her story with raw honesty. Readers flooded in. Women like her, battered but unbroken. It grew into a non-profit, advocating for fair divorce laws, and Emily found herself testifying at a state hearing, her voice steady. No one should lose their home to greed. One spring morning, she stood in her garden, the roses blooming red against the fence. Ava and Ben played nearby, their laughter weaving through the air. She touched a petal, soft and vibrant, and smiled. This is home, she thought. And it's ours. She wasn't the same, not better, not worse, just stronger. And that was enough. What's a moment in your life that forced you to redefine yourself? How did you find your way forward? Share with us at Whisper Story, we're here for every step. Emily's fight wasn't just for a house. It was for her family, her future, and every woman who's been underestimated. At Whisper Story, we believe that the hardest battles reveal our true strength. If Emily's journey inspired you, unsettled you, or made you cheer, you're in the right place. We're here to share the stories that matter, the ones that whisper truths you need to hear. Don't miss the next whisper. Subscribe to Whisper Story today. Whether you're listening over coffee or late at night, we'll be there, unraveling the stories that shape us. Click subscribe, and join our community of listeners who crave the truth. Because here at Whisper Story, the most powerful stories are the ones you never saw coming.